Prepare to fill your minds and hearts with wonder. Enjoy the generosity of intellect and spirit of a wonderful group of readers. Our first student reader is Lisa Charnock, whose poetry has appeared in the Southern Poetry Review, Zone 3, Grist, The Cape Rock, Red Wheelbarrow, Pennsylvania English, and Evening Street Review. Lisa also won first place in the 2008 Powell's Book Portland Poem Contest. Lisa is completing her poetry MFA in the Solstice program of Manor College, and she also studies under Ellen Bass and Danusha Lemeris. She teaches a bi-monthly poetry workshop at the Salinas Valley State Prison. Lisa Charnock currently resides in Aptos, California, and enjoys spending her free time gardening, hiking, and reforesting an 80-acre timber property in Oregon. Please, let's listen to Lisa.
Thank you, Monika. I am so happy to be here supporting the Solstice program, which has given me so much. This poem was written very early in the pandemic. Sunken. That world of the internet offers more than you can bear. Images of people in scrubs, maybe gloves, sunk on their heels, head in hands. In one, a fellow nurse reaches toward a shoulder without touching. In another, a small son stopped from running into daddy's arms, uncertain. It's the form of the body, folded in on itself, fetal, an origami of despair. Or maybe it's the siren call of gravity, triumphant. If you don't turn away too quickly, you feel that crease in your own body. Begin to sense how much weight it takes to subdue all motion. What does it take to lift the head, press through the knees, to stand again, take a step forward? I live on a small island in the San Juan Islands in Washington State called Guaymas Island, and you'll hear that name in relation to the channel that separates us by ferry from the nearest town in this next poem. Undeniable. Those rippling rings in the shrinking vernal pond, are they insects breaking from below, dropping onto the surface? Or maybe it's light rain that I can't see in the air between my window and that other surface, sky, reflected from ground. I know there are tadpoles in the muck. Frogs court loudly every night. So many ripples. I keep looking for drops of rain on the glass. I keep looking for drops on the glass. Sure now, there must be rain. Almost comforted by the grayness overhead, the quiet voices of various greens. My heart wants to relax, breath and cloud the same. How many have died from a cop's knee bearing down on his neck? This time, anger finally burst through the cracks in every city. I look, helpless, out onto the Guaymas Channel, cutting off this island, knowing I have a choice, whether to listen to the unbearable news or to the frogs. I have always had choices. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. That was beautiful. And now please listen to Ashley Johnson, who is a Master of Fine Arts candidate at the Solstice MFA Creative Writing Program of Manor College. Her essays have appeared in Sleet Magazine, Glassworks Magazine, and Iron City Magazine. She's currently working on a memoir in essays about witnessing injustices in the American judicial system and examining the residual effects of mass incarceration on the Black family structure. Ashley earned her master's degree in education from UMUC and her bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Marymount University. Ashley is a native Washingtonian and currently resides in Silver Spring, Maryland with her husband and their 2 sons. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, Monika. Thank you so much for that. Happy to be here, happy to read. I'm gonna just hop right into it. So the name of this essay is Long Distance. when his most prized possessions were simple things like pen and paper. Dad plucked words from memory and wrote letters. Silent sonics, Dad's situation and story written on a page or 2 or 10, so easily misread, misinterpreted, missed. His letters were from a place of hurry up and wait, a place where incoming and outgoing envelopes lie on a mailroom floor, morphing into mounds of cold alphabet soup. Sorries and regrets on paper, promises of change and plans for post-release fueled by such imagination. I imagine I am my dad. Disappointed in myself is an understatement. I messed up. I've been an eater of colors, an omnivorous color eater. I've stolen and inhaled the hues of others and tried to keep them for myself. And now this place is siphoning the colors I've collected, plus the ones that belong to me, which means this place is stealing it all. Everything will be whitewashed when this is over. I've learned my lesson, and I'm truly sorry for me. I'll be sorry for others, but that'll take more time. I don't want to return to this place. The shakedowns rattle me. Guards evict me from my cell and rummage for contraband. I re-enter my 6-foot by 8-foot box. My pile of possessions was plundered by the marauders called COs. I won't say what I feel because my language is too colorful. It may upset the balance of power. I am not a peacock. Humans cannot be peacocks. I didn't want to give up my jewelry, but I gladly hand it over in here because what I want more than anything right now is to fly, which is to say I want to be free. Instead, I'm shackled and caged, tired. Ancestral ghosts insist I keep my eyes free from fleshy veils that fall when the moon rises. My present state a flipped cliche. New dog, old tricks. Transport from one facility to another with no warning is fair trade. I've learned an unspoken code. Dear God, please don't let me be institutionalized. Amen. My insides are shriveling up in here. Lungs charred from all the smoke out there. The same smoke is in here. I recoil like raw meat thrown on a scalding skillet at the thought of myself, thoughts of my trespasses, thoughts of the growing distance between me and my daughter, thoughts of the insanity of my addiction to money and crack cocaine and a reputation. I've been a slave to myself. I was a peacock with too much tail, and all that decoration, all that color has weighed me down like vanity. And can't nobody fly with all that shit. I've walked, dragging my pride and plume through dust and gravel. I wish to return what I've taken. I want to reclaim some of the time taken from me, so I write. I write here because I'm right here, and this is the only way I can paint you a portrait of myself. I write here because I'm right here, and I don't want you to forget me. I write here because I'm still here, and I have important things to say. I write hoping you think of me. I write just in case. I write in chaos. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing, Ashley. Thank you so much, Lisa and Ashley. Fantastic, amazing readings. Let's see how we're doing on a fundraiser. So far we've raised $5,470. It's absolutely wonderful. We are doing great, and every amount matters. Please donate. I know this is repeated so often, it has become a cliche, but having the iconic cliche status doesn't make it any less true. This fundraiser changes people's lives. It changed mine. And it goes beyond the words we produce. It saturates the intent with which we write, what we write about. Thank you so much to all who already donated. And if you're on the fence, just do it. When you fall asleep tonight, you will be able to say to yourself, I help bring a tiny little dream into this world. Don't you want to feel like the dream bringer? You do? Donate, please. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we will listen to two readings from Solstice alums. These two readers, Ieshia and Gabriel, both in their writing and life, perfectly illustrate my next quote from Helen Keller. Believe, when you are most unhappy, that there is something for you to do in the world. So long as you can sweeten another's pain, life is not in vain. Gabriel Cleveland is a poet and fiction writer with an MFA in creative writing from Manor College, currently serving as the managing editor for Cavan-Kerr Press, New Jersey's foremost nonprofit poetry publisher. An avid gamer and music lover, Gabriel is also a mental health advocate, often working online to raise awareness, visibility, and money for psychological and psychosocial issues. He has spent several years in the field of caregiving for people with increased physical and or mental needs, and wants you to know that you are not alone. I first met Gabriel during my final residency when he arrived with a huge smile and equally huge heart to deliver beautiful gifts to all graduating writers. He's also one of the most passionate advocates for Popo, the August Poetry Postcard Festival. And if you're not familiar with this wondrous initiative, please ask him about it. You'll thank me later. You will instantly beautify your life and your physical, yes, physical and not digital mailbox will weep tears of happiness too. Please listen to Gabriel.
Wow, thank you, Monika. And I've been writing out my postcards finally today, so. All right, both of these poems are from the end of September. The first one is, with no one else around, I talk to the sun. First, I thank it for the hibiscus that open like satellite dishes on my balcony. Then I point out the city and the river and the barges and even the white swells of the Hudson and how it all seems motionless from a mile or two away, frozen so long as you don't look too closely between the trees where cars carry little glimpses of the sun's rays like focal points of 1,000 magnifying glasses. Then I have to sigh because the stillness becomes emblematic of our country in its peril, like a diver suspended in place, stretched to infinity at the event horizon before the black hole tears him into particles. I talk about right-wing conspiracies getting sworn into office and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's untimely death, and how if the end is coming, it ought to just come already, because this edging is a real turnoff, and sometimes you just need it to be over. The sun, of course, doesn't answer. The sun just casts light. And the other one is Poem to the Hugless, which is most of us, I think, at this point. You are missing something crucial. The biceps that blanket your full frame, the fingers that walk along your back to find a place to rest, the forearms that compress against your shoulder blades to pull you close, the warmth of another person's chest against your chest, and how the warmth is beyond simple heat. The warmth is a relaxation in your face and your muscles and a slight smile. The warmth is knowing you are fully embraced, if only for a moment. The warmth that comes when you give another person warmth, and the worth of that moment, how that moment can last as long as it's needed, and how deeply you feel that need now. I feel that need too. Feel it deep in my bones, which feel hollow, like I could take flight from this earth and with nothing to hold me, never come down. When this pandemic finally ends, I will stand on a corner giving out hugs like Halloween candy for as long as it takes. For anyone who needs it, I'll see you there.
Thank you, Gabriel. Beautiful. And a big, 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 big hug. Actually, endless hugs. Ieshia Karasik, winner of Jacqueline Woodson Fellowship for a Young People's Writer of African and Caribbean descent, completed her MFA in picture books and pedagogy at Manor College, Solstice. She earned her associate's degree from Roxbury Community College and her bachelor's degree from Boston University in Management Studies. For the past 10 years, she has been working in higher education, helping students perfect interviewing skills and to find their dream careers. Ieshia now teaches English composition to first-year college students. She has been a devoted reader for over 37 years and dreams of sharing her life stories to inspire other passionate readers to continue reading. I was extremely lucky to be in the same workshop with Ieshia in our Writing for Young People's team. Ieshia is profoundly insightful, a true sage. She writes with delicious humor, wit, and sensitivity about topics important and often difficult for young readers. And yet, she also always managed to make me laugh so hard. I often wished I had invested in those adult diapers like I promised myself I would. For example, in one of our workshops, we ended up with a lot of nudity in a children's picture book, all because of a missing hamster. No need for alarm though, every character has been properly clothed ever since. Ladies and gentlemen, here comes Ieshia.
Monika, thank you so much. Yes, all my characters are fully clothed now. That is one of the amazing powers of being in the Solstice MFA. You really hone in your work and clothe your characters if they need to be. Today, I'm going to share a story called Power. Power. Once upon a time, but not so long ago, there was a superhero. Her name was Ludi Lou. If you looked at Ludi Lou, she seemed like an ordinary girl, but she was no ordinary girl. Ludi Lou had a very, very special superhero power. She was a writer. I know you must be wondering how writing could be a superpower at all. And what difference could words on paper make? Well, let me tell you the story about a kid just like you, a very, very special superhero. No problem was too small for Ludi Lou's superhero powers. She was not afraid to use her very, very special superpowers. Global warming started impacting the earth faster and faster. Nothing much was being done to stop it. No one had been able to convince the president of the seriousness of the situation, not even his trusted advisors. Even so, Ludi Lou did her research and wrote to the president. Dear Mr. President, somebody must do something. Global warming is a warning to us all. You must stop pollution. Immediately, the president jumped to action. Ludi Lou's logos of persuasion got Mr. President to see the facts and get back on track, preserving our habitat. Ludi Lou knew she could change the world. She knew this had to be true. She wrote and wrote and wrote. And as you can see, words on a piece of paper made a colossal impact worldwide. Then one day, an awful and sad thing happened to Ludi Lou in her own backyard. A developer planned to replace the forest with a mall. We all know that her superpowers are great, and she was not afraid to write. So she wrote to the developer, Dear developer, somebody must do something. If you build on this land, you will destroy the ecosystem. We must preserve nature. This time, her ethos to persuade did not work. The developer said, This information is true, but I do not care. This is my land and I will do as I want. Ludi Lou was sad and did not know what else to do, so she did what she knew. Even if the developer did not care, she knew others did. She wrote to the newspaper, "Dear friends, somebody must do something. I am an ordinary girl that makes changes by paying attention, checking the facts, and using my words to right injustice. I know that you care and have this power too. I need your help." Ludi Lu empowered the people with her pathos to persuade. The town came together using their superpowers and joined in keeping the world safe. The developer could not resist the very, very special superhero powers and decided to create a nature sanctuary instead. Indeed, very ordinary people can unleash their power to write on the world and make a difference that is not very, very ordinary. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Ieshia. I miss you. It is completely impossible to move from such elevated mood of listening to phenomenal writing, to speaking about money, but we are here to raise money for all the other writers out there sitting at home and dreaming of a community like Solstice. So please, thank you so much already to everybody who donated. Don't stop now. Keep the money flowing for one of the most noble reasons: to give voice to writers filled with urgency and a need to change the status quo. Donate, donate, donate. Let me segue to the faculty reading section with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. "You cannot do a kindness too soon, because you never know how soon it will be too late." For those of you not familiar with the Solstice program yet, let me tell you why it is a unicorn of writing programs. Not only are we housing our own little Hogwarts for writers, check out those dragons please, but we are also ridiculously lucky to have faculty members who are all brilliant, driven, and simply breathtakingly talented writers and poets. But also, and please note that this also doesn't often occur in nature, so let me repeat, they are also equally driven, brilliant, and breathtakingly talented as mentors. For all the alums with us today, please remember the generosity of your mentors and donate, donate, donate. First, let's hear from Iain. Iain Haley Pollock is the author of Ghost Like a Place, which was nominated for an NAACP Image Award, and Spit Back a Boy, winner of the Cave Canem Poetry Prize. Pollock's poems have also appeared in a number of anthologies, including Furious Flower, Seeding the Future of African American Poetry, and please excuse this poem, 100 Poem Next Generation. He teaches at Rye Country Day School in suburban New York and at the Solstice MFA program of Manor College. In partnership with Solstice MFA program, he curates the Kitchen Table series, a monthly online poetry reading. My favorite encounter with Iain was in the cafeteria one summer, when upon hearing my greeting Laura Williams McCaffrey with "Good morning, beautiful goddess," he raised his eyes heavenward and asked why he was greeted with a simple "Hi, Iain." This encounter filled me with a deep need to correct this grievous error in faculty-student communication. What better moment than now? Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, please open your ears and hearts for the one and only, divinely handsome, and dangerously charming, the god of poetry and wicked smiles, Iain Haley Pollock.
That's too much, Monika. Thank you. You're throwing me off my game. I'm trying to read something serious. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Quentin, and thank you, Monika, for that wonderful introduction. I remember that moment well. In the world, there's no audience I'd rather read to than a Solstice audience, so I thought I'd debut a new poem, especially because it's, it's the hometown crowd. It's a friendly audience. This poem has 3 unnumbered sections, so you'll hear me pause between the sections. A Black mother's child considers his lost dream of immortality. What was she hoping I'd learn? What lessons when my mother, who taught Greek at the college on the hill, read their old stories to me? To be ready one night for hooded snakes to crawl into my cradle, to leave a trail of twine behind me as I walked the labyrinthian corridors of my country, not to raise the wrong sail whenever I came home to her, not to dive as the swan and plummet into a woman, bathing in the seclusion of high reeds, not to be the shock and awe of white wings. For me, though, the truth in the myth was this: power transforms into life and life forever. And when my mother was finished, all I wanted was to live as those changing but unchanging gods. The white man who taught me Greek hated me. He thought I was lazy. I admit that I often slept through his morning class, often stumbled through his translations as a boar through deep, sudden snow. My mother cried when she left me in the parking lot of that place, cried harder than I'd seen since the week after her father died. I think she had learned that no Black mother can save her children. Save them, as you have proven and are still proving, America, from your primitive, bullhorned violence. And so, more days than not there, her son stood beside an aluminum keg, fermenting himself, pouring into his gullet a river, not of forgetfulness, but of a needful forgetting. My mother wanted to learn Latin on her way to Greek, but her school had her pegged to cook and sew. Short but thick-set, the school's own former football hero, her father traded on his glory, the scars earned for it, on his hobbled knees, the slight slur of his speech, to demand a place for her in a room of primers and chalkboards. They thought she should scurry about the rooms of your house, America, picking up what you had dropped. But she overcame to stand at the front of a room, professor of language and myth. I told a version of this story to Black children at a school in Philadelphia. When I came to the end, my mother teaching Greek at the college on the hill, they rose from their chairs and applauded her in the proxy of me. I think now I lied to them while standing in a room across town from where you firebombed city blocks to save yourself. America, you have eaten your children to keep your place on the honeyed mountaintop. If you have not already, you will eat those children too. And still you will come with wild, ravenous hunger for more. And why do you keep doing what you do? And what will you do one day when, instead of a child, you swallow a stone? Thank you.
Thank you, Iain. Just wow, simply wow. Now, I'm super excited to introduce my beloved mentor, the aforementioned beautiful goddess, Laura Williams McCaffrey. If it hadn't been for Laura, I would be on my way to become the author of the world's first young adult pornographic novel. I'm very relieved to tell you that because of Laura's loving and clear guidance, my pornographic ambitions have been redirected to adult audiences, pun intended. Laura's most recent novel is Marked, an original textured page-turner from Review from Kirkus. She's also the author of Water Shaper, selected in 2007 for the New York Public Library Books for the Teen Age List, and Aliyah Walking, an IRA notable book. Her short story appeared in Cicada, Solstice Literary Magazine, and YAReview.net, earning such honors as the SCBWI Magazine Merit Award for Fiction and a Pushcart Prize nomination. The former fiction editor at YAReview.net, Laura now teaches at Champlain College and Patchen School and Solstice. For more information about her, please visit www.laurawilliamsmccaffrey.com. Please welcome Laura.
It's hard to follow Ian's reading because it's still kind of reverberating in my head, and all of your readings. Actually, it's such a great honor to be here with all of you, sitting in my house, which is highly disconcerting. I'm just going to read the bit of a short story, the first part of a short story that was published in Soundings Review a while back. It's called Her Mother's Skin. The leggy girl, on evenings when the wind was warm and wild, drifted away from the house and her chores, from the little ones and her mother's long silences. As the wind tangled sand and seagrass through the girl's hair, she climbed the cliff faces and explored their secret hidey holes, which is why she found her mother's skin. At first, as she knelt on the cave's floor and held the long, white, feathered cloak before her, she didn't know what it must be or to whom it must belong. Soft in her hands, the cloak hung like lace, its great wings drooping, its feathered hood tipped forward like the head of someone who's nodded off to sleep. It smelled of brine. She began to shake, not knowing why. Then she remembered the day 7 years ago when the worst storm howled. She was 5 and only had one small brother. Da was somewhere at sea, away for weeks or maybe months. Outside the house, the waves crashed high on the sand, almost at the foot of the cliffs. The wind tugged the short, stubborn pines until they creaked and snapped apart. Inside the house, her mother played seek-a-find with her while her brother slept, and her mother searched for her in silly places, the very back of the pantry shelves, or the drawers in the loft, under the roof eaves. The girl peeked from the bed blankets where she hid and saw Mama slide a hand deep under the eaves. "No, Mama, no," she cried. "I can't fit there. I'm too big." "You give yourself away, silly Signet," Mama said, stepping into the middle of the bed, dropping to her knees and scooping the girl into a hug. They tipped over and giggled. After a while, Mama lay on her back, and the girl curled alongside, her head resting on Mama's shoulder. They looked at the shadowy ceiling above as if this were the sky. The lantern's wavering flame danced dim, danced bright. Outside, the wind moaned and the sea smashed itself against the rocks. "Mama?" the girl asked. Mama was quiet. She was there, but also far away. The girl nestled closer, tucking the top of her head under Mama's chin. She clutched a handful of Mama's sleeve. Under one of the girl's ears, Mama's heart beat slow and soft. The girl waited for Mama to come back to her. In only a few moments, Mama kissed the top of the girl's head. The girl sighed. "Signet," Mama said, "there's something I'm looking for." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was beautiful. Oh, again, very difficult to move from such fantastic reading to talking about money, but we've raised over 75% of our $7,000 goal. So please, please, please donate. You can be sure your money is well spent. You're keeping dreams alive. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, before we listen to our Writers in Residence readers, let me share the last quote with you. I chose it because it reminded me of our Solstice's overall philosophy, the way our leadership, our faculty, mentors, writers and poets in residence, and students interact with one another. Simone de Beauvoir said, "That's what I consider true generosity. You give your all, yet always feel as it costs you nothing." Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from Helen Elaine Lee. Helen Elaine Lee is a graduate of Harvard College and Harvard Law School. Her first novel, The Serpent's Gift, was published by Atheneum, and her second novel, Watermarked, was published by Scribner. Her short stories have appeared in Plowshares, Prairie Schooner, Kalalu, Hanging Loose, and Solstice Literary Magazine. She has written about leading creative writing workshops in prison in a New York Times essay, Visible Men. Her novel, Pomegranate, will be published by Simon & Schuster's Atra Books in 2022. Helen is Professor of Comparative Media Studies and Writing at MIT and Director of MIT's Program in Women's and Gender Studies. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with the Solstice family again today. So I'm going to read the opening of my forthcoming novel, Pomegranate, in which Renita, the main character, is about to get out of prison. This is a flashback to a memory of when she was 13. Mama's gone. I saw her dying and I saw her dead. She disappeared into the hospital while I was at school getting filled up with facts and equations and never did come home again. But I stood next to her hospital bed, watching her breath fill and empty the blue ventilator bag. There she was, flattened and silenced by machines and tubes, and I couldn't believe something as small as a blood clot had brought her down. People call it passing, but her hands were fists, and she was stepping to a fight. I saw her in the coffin, lined with ruffled white satin like a fancy gift box, shiny wig low on her forehead like a helmet, skin waxy and mouth pressed shut, eyes closed to me as usual. I stood only as close as I had to, half expecting her to sit up and give a rundown of everything I'd ever done wrong. Even now, a month later, I still hear her voice. Her perfect pitch always did seem to fill up every space in the house. I can hear and see and feel her in the back door alcove between inside and outside, in the kitchen, on the staircase, in the upstairs hall, at the piano, everywhere but in her perfect living room where no one ever goes. And I'm grieving, but not just how people think. I'll never please her, never tell her what I'm keeping inside, never love her more than I fear her, never get the chance to walk away. Mama always did hijack the attention, and her death day crowded out everything else and left a haze of gray behind. Seems like my 13th birthday, 2 days later, didn't even happen. And now here we are, me and Auntie Dee Dee, sitting across from each other at the dining room table, picking at one of the casseroles the church people are still bringing. It's always been against the rules, but I'm reading a book at the table. Auntie Dee Dee, she's staying here till things settle down, and she's not so big on shouts and shout nots. Daddy stretches out work as long as possible or escapes to go fishing if it's the weekend. He thinks his encyclopedia set will make everything okay, and both of them try and dodge the weird gray sadness with food and lighthearted chit-chat, little field trips, fake cheer. Neither one talks about Mama. Neither one asks what my sadness is made of. That's the family way. And what hurts, it keeps on haunting like a hungry ghost. I hear the front door open and close, and Daddy's in the archway looking like a jester, chuckling from his belly like he's doing a magic trick. He pulls a dented, sorry-looking piece of fruit from a brown paper bag. Auntie Dee Dee smiles, and I tell myself to do the same. I've seen pomegranates 2D, but not in person, not up close. Where'd you get that, I ask, my triad excitement falling flat. His forehead worry lines pop up and his smile wobbles, but he keeps it going and says one of his customers gave it to him, an extra thanks for new window glass. Putting it in my hands, he tells me, this fruit has some surprising and wonderful news waiting for us, buried just inside. And my fingers study its dark red skin, scratched and ordinary, expecting a whole lot of nothing. Daddy says, let's wait to open it. Sometimes waiting makes things better. So Dee Dee gets him a plate of tuna green bean casserole and a huge piece of the sweet cornbread we baked this afternoon. And he sits with us, telling us about his day at the shop, brake pads, new rims, custom paint jobs. Loyal Auntie Dee Dee, she listens and asks questions that'll keep him chattering while I mute their voices in my head, turning the pomegranate to feel the flatter places and the bumps and faded spots, pressing my fingertips to the sharp little crown at the top. And when I'm about to get up and leave and wait on something else, he says, let's break it open. My voice comes out a whisper, oh shit, as I peel away the little jewels from the spongy webbing that holds the whole thing together. The elders frown at my language, but I can't help it. It takes me out, the wild design of it, and the seeds give little bursts of sour sweet juice and turn everything they touch a ruby red. It's a whole world, strange and crazy beautiful underneath the skin, layer on crooked layer of red crystals and chambers like inside a heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. That was crazy beautiful. Our final reader is Dzvinia Orlowsky, Pushcart Prize poet, NEA awarded translator, and a founding editor of Four-Way Books. Dzvinia is author of 6 poetry collections published by Carnegie Mellon University Press, including her most recent, Bad Harvest, named a 2019 Massachusetts Book Award Must Read in Poetry. Her poem sequence, The Disenchanted Desna, was selected by Robert Pinsky as a 2019 winner of the New England Poetry Club Samuel Washington Allen Prize. Her co-translation of a selection of poems from the Ukrainian by Natalka Bilosarkiewicz, titled Eccentric Days of Hope and Sorrow, is forthcoming from Lost Horse Press in fall 2021. I will never forget the first time I saw Dzvinia. It was our residency evening reading, and out of the blue, in the crowd of all the lovely literary people and their families, I noticed a woman who looked and moved as if she was a poem trapped in a person. Imagine, in a New England winter, a woman in a dress that was spirited straight from the Great Gatsby's party, elbow-length gloves and a long string of pearls and a smile that made me want to say, yes, I will follow you inside the ocean or into a volcano, whatever you want. And you see, that was before she even said a word, or more importantly, read her poetry. Ladies and gentlemen, a vision of beauty and poetry, Dzvinia.
Monika, thank you, and good night. No, anyway, thank you, everyone, and I'm more than thrilled to be reading as part of Solstice's Unicorn. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm going to read 2 short poems, one an older one from my collection, Silvertone. It's called Early Hour. The moon would rather be a rock star, so it hangs unto the night sky, spotlight and open door. For the man and woman tired of its one tune, it offers a burning candle's trail of smoke that rises and goes nowhere. It says sleep is for woodpeckers tired of drumming, for a family of deer who have leapt into a pond of ferns. Instead, the moon urges, live. The black leather jacket drops into words about a black leather jacket. The crimson firefly swells at the tip of a cigarette, and you know it, standing alone in your yard, closing your book of poems by Yevtushenko, that this is the grand reunion tour. The constant hammering in your brain, naked mind, naked body. In daylight, butterflies that will die if they hitchhike onto your clothes. And the second poem I'm going to read is, and the final poem is a newer one, and it was actually published in Voices Amid the Virus, Poets Respond to the Pandemic, edited by alum Eileen Cleary, co-edited with Christine Jones, published by Lily Poetry Review. So am happy to share this with an alum. And this poem is called "And Weep," and it is after Anne Waldman's poem "And Sleep, the Lazy Owl of Night." And weep the blossoming drifts of blight, and weep the toxic tips of tongues, and weep the infected and the arrested, the dead, and weep the songs of sirens under distancing clouds, and weep the reedy fringes of breath, and weep the cold stone and attendants' gossamer scrubs, and weep the burning eye held open, and weep the heart that burst in the throat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dzvinia. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
It's absolutely hard to believe, but we actually have come to the end of this beautiful event. I just refreshed the fundraising campaign, so I see that we are only a little bit over $500 away from our $7,000 goal. So please, 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 if you haven't yet, please donate now. You can still help all the dreamers out there who need Solstice's supportive and loving community to nurture their budding poems, creative nonfiction, short stories, and those future best-selling novels. Donate and feel you've done your share of goodness for today. Thank you, our wonderful readers, for your generosity of intellect and spirit. Thank you, Quentin and Meg, for organizing this fantastic fundraiser. And thank you to all the donors and to all our listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you for me as well. And I have to say that we have raised over $1,000 within the past hour toward our scholarship fund. And so many thanks to our MC, our readers, and our interpreter. Also, thank you to our donors again, and everyone who's been sharing the campaign. Thank you for joining us today as well. If you want more information about the Solstice MFA program, please visit pmc.edu/MFA. We still have a few scholarships available for spring 2021, and our deadline to apply and start this January is tomorrow, November 15th. Be safe and be well. Thank you all.